May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our redeemer. Please be seated. What a gloomy bunch of readings and hymns. Very fitting with Lent because it's all about death. We've been talking a lot about death. And unfortunately, in this Lent, there has been death in the parish and nearby. In the past 3 weeks, I've had 3 funerals. The third one was for McLean, so most of you won't know about it, but some of you will. This time of death, and here we're called over and over again to enter into that death with Christ. What we say at baptism, we are baptized into Christ's death so that we may rise with him again. Death, death, death. It's a glorious thing to die. This is so central to the idea that we go through in Lent, all of the readings in Lent, the whole purpose of this time of spring in the church that leads to the resurrection at Easter. But how do we show this in our lives? How do we come to understand this in a way that both makes sense and is healthy? It's life-giving to die. Some time ago, in one of our parish apprenticeships, I handed out an article called "A Healthy Church is a Dying Church," or it was "A Dying Church is a Healthy Church." And I think that article got it very right. If we are not dying, we have no future. Sounds pretty strange, doesn't it? But that's the message of the gospel. It's told to us over and over again. In today's gospel, the seed cannot bear fruit unless first it stops being a seed. It dies as a seed so that it can rise as a plant which bears fruit. And I think that's a really good understanding of what this death is that we're looking for. It's not the absolute death of the body that we tie ourselves to with this word death. It's giving up of that which we hold dear so that something new may rise from that. And the church over the years has done this over and over again. This church, I'm sure, has done it quite a number of times. Right now in this parish, the parish itself is an example of that. We had the parish of Holy Faith and the parish of Touchwood Trail, both of which had to let go of that in order to become this new thing, teachers of the faith. Right now in Belcarix, we have 2 congregations, one Anglican, one United. The United Church has had to give up their building to rise anew as a congregation worshiping in the Anglican Church. And the Anglican Church has had to give up their freedom of hanging around after church, talking and gabbing and just taking their time to leave, because there's another service happening right after theirs most of the time. We give things up. We let go of what we hold dear. And something new is allowed to come and take its place. This is the death that we need to embrace. In our lives, when we give up control, when we give up the need to hold on to all of these things that we think are so important, we leave room for something new to come into our lives. hoarders. We may not be hoarders of physical things, but we're hoarders nonetheless. We hold on to traditions. We hold on to them so tightly because we think they are so important. We hold on to our habits. We hold on to our families. And my daughter's 13, and I'm already dreading, have to let go of some of that control. And some of it she makes me let go of, and she's not ready for. But we have to let go so that the new life can rise up. If I hold so tight, she will never become who she can be. It's a hard thing to embrace death. To embrace the death of a relationship as it has been and let it become something new. To have no control over what it's going to become. Just to be there and allow it to happen. And that's what we're called to do in the church. We're human. We want everything to be comfortable. And we want to know what's going to happen. We want to know what our future is. But that's not how it works in God's house. Because we're not following our call. We're following God's call. And if we hold on so tight, God's call can't be heard. God's call can't come to life. All we do is we cause the kind of death that we're afraid of. The death that means the end. If we can bring ourselves to embrace the death that we are called to embrace, the death of our control, to let go and live in Christ, to take up that cross, which is not our own, but is our own. To let go of the control, to let go of some of our traditions that we think are so important, but really do nothing to glorify God. We glorify buildings. We glorify spaces. We glorify names. We're called to glorify God. It's hard. But that's what Lent is about, is helping us to get to that place. So that we can actually come to Easter fresh and new and ready to rise with Jesus in God's Word.